Hey everybody. Uh, I thought that I would post a video minus the uh, somewhat gimmicky professor outfit to just share some thoughts on this Israeli Palestinian, really Israeli Hamas conflict. Not that the world needs another opinion. And you may also think that, well, what would I have to say about it? A guy in a death pickle shirt. Both good questions. For me, I don't know if I have a whole lot of credibility. I will say that I have been to the Gaza Strip and I've been to Israel. And have experienced violence there as a teenager on a trip with my father when he was president of World Vision. We were there um, a long time ago. I think I was somewhere between 12 and 15, and I can't remember now. But I remember being in Israel and some Palestinian kids seeing me and thinking I was Jewish and throwing rocks at me. And then we went to the Gaza Strip. My parents and I were visiting a hospital there, and we were told we had to leave immediately because there was a Israeli convoy coming, and we were running through alleyways and trying to get back to the van that we were in. And on the way, sure enough, we get caught in the middle of Palestinians throwing rocks at the Israeli convoy, and the convoy firing back. So was, no kidding, shot at in Israel or in Gaza Strip. Then we made our way to the van, and my dad reminds me of this because it's embarrassing and very funny to him. But he kept telling me to get my head down, and I thought he meant roll the window down. So I was trying to roll the window down, and he was yelling at me, "What are you doing?" But hey, consider if you know me, maybe that makes sense that I would do something like that. Anyway, and then that story actually I think helped me get into grad school to get a master's in conflict analysis and resolution, which I did. And then, strangely, maybe to you, but somehow making sense to me, I went to the Marine Corps and was an infantry officer. Again, sometimes conflict has to be resolved. Sometimes violence is the right answer. At least from my perspective, sometimes violence is necessary, um, depending on what's going on. So, what happened? So Hamas launched an attack. It was brutal. I don't think, I'm not sure there's many voices out there to say that it wasn't wrong or even evil, what they did. But there's a lot of talking heads out there that are fomenting anger around this where it's unnecessary. There's plenty to be angry about and justifiably angry, but I don't think we need these talking heads adding fuel to that fire. You know, just because this is an act of evil does not mean you can ignore um, or should ignore a troubled and nuanced history between Israel, the West Bank, and Gaza Strip. Just because you don't ignore that nuanced history does not make you a hater of Jewish people. Um, and so can't we acknowledge that this is an evil act? And I don't know if it gets more evil. Killing of innocent people um, with the intention to kill innocent people is pretty much, at least in my mind at this stage in my life, kind of the definition of evil, where you intend to kill innocent people. There's no question in my mind that is wrong and should be treated as such. And in this day and age, I don't think that's something you can turn the other cheek towards. Again, if there's evil targeting innocent people intentionally, then there needs to be a response. So everybody's going to talk about whether that response was measured, whether it was too much or whatnot. It's going to cause. This is the thing that I'm being critical of, is these talking heads that are going to. This already has what it needs to spread. So we're going to get probably Iran. Iran's going to be a factor. Ukraine still, and Russia, that's still connected to this. And then, and maybe will lead to what a lot of people are predicting, these doomsday folks, of another world war. And the heads that are talking, adding fuel to fire, because they're yelling and being critical of someone who is not on their side, not bringing dignity to the discourse, not even bringing a discourse, just screaming into their chamber for their followers to shake their fists and rage in unison. That's not doing anybody any good. So where has rage? I'm not sure where rage has helped anyone. Maybe there's a such thing as a righteous rage, but it's certainly not coming through on a YouTube channel. It's certainly not going to come through on a Twitter feed. Get the F out of here. That is ridiculous. That is selfish. It's exploiting a terrible, terrible occurrence in our world, so you can get other people angry with you, and adding fuel to the fire that doesn't need the fuel. So I'm critical of that, and I'm hesitant to go to the next place I'm going to go, but I think I'm going to go there anyway, and I will decide later whether or not to post it. But I listened to a guy, Sam Harris. He recently said this, and I have a hard time disagreeing with him. But that there's not a moral equivalency here with this attack. Again, if you're targeting, and if your intention is to kill innocent people, there's not a moral equivalency. I mean, Israel, there's plenty to criticize. There's plenty of nuance. There's plenty to not lose sight of. But Israel, at the very least, is not targeting innocent people. Now, there may be collateral damage, for sure. People say that Israel targeted this hospital. I think the facts aren't out yet. If so, then maybe if that is true, then maybe what I'm saying is absolutely false. But it's my belief that Israel doesn't target innocents. Why else would Hamas hide behind them? Why else would Hamas have their offices and their bases and where they congregate behind or in schools and in hospitals? Because they know and by default acknowledge there is not a moral equivalency, because Israel will not kill innocents if they can avoid it. Whereas Hamas, I'm not saying Palestinians, I'm saying Hamas, is willing to do that and intends to do that and has shown that with this recent attack. So that's not a moral equivalency. The morals are different. For whatever reason, they're different. And one is, I would say, more evolved than another. Now, you may say this is out of desperation. That's fine. I don't want to leave any nuance out of all this stuff, but they're not there yet. And then the other thing he brought up that I think is worth repeating is, in the U.S., as bad as things you think are now, they were much worse. And the example he used is people would get out in their Sunday best, 100 years ago. Really about 100 years ago, maybe a little bit more, but in their Sunday best to watch a lynching in their town on a lamppost. I mean, think about that. It was like you came out with your kids and your family to watch a lynching. And people would, and this is just facts, people would take part of the body and as a souvenir and bring it home. That was us. That was us. Taking parts of a dead body that we just saw get lynched. Some kind of disgusting public justice that we did in the past. Now, if we're willing to do that, but we have evolved since, and I think we have evolved since, I think the social evolution and mindset has changed for the better. It's really hard to argue against that, from lynching in the street with no repercussions for a family event to where we are today. Then so we did something right. We did something right to change from that behavior, to evolve from that behavior. Plenty to go, plenty of evolution to go, but at least we've proven that we can evolve from there. If American society can make that evolution from that barbarity, then maybe Hamas, given the right environment and cultivation, maybe there's hope there, but it's not there now. That's the point. The moral equivalency is asymmetric, and that needs to be dealt with. And it could be dealt with in a number of ways, and I won't get into any of that stuff because I'm really not an expert on this. But what's not helping is the podcasters and the historically right and the historically left yelling at each other, just like it's not helping with anything else. Let's put that to rest. They need to just stop. I think what it means for me as a non-Jewish person, non-Palestinian person, non-Islamic person, is that I'm not going to contribute to that, but maybe just have compassion for what's going on. I think it's a time to listen. I think it's a time, this is cheesy, but I think this is true, but the world is getting scary. So what can we do about it? Well, we can focus on our own sphere of influence, focus on our families, focus on the people in our lives. Maybe we treat them kinder. That sounds very foo-foo, but I honestly am not sure what else to do. But I think the wrong thing to do is to yell at people outside of your influence. No one's listening, by the way. People outside your sphere of influence, they're not listening to you. I've made that mistake. I still make that mistake. So I get it. But they're not listening to you. So focus on what you can inform, on what you can influence. And that is the people in your immediate family. Maybe it's your extended family, your neighbor. I think that's the lesson to take away. And let's shut down these. Let's stop clicking on these. Let's stop, including myself, let's stop clicking on these channels that just make us more angry and fire us up because these people have the same opinions we do. And it makes us feel good to share in the rage, but it's not making you feel good. It's diminishing yourself and probably making you very unhealthy. Again, I say these to you, but I'm saying them to myself too, because these are lessons I've had to learn and still I'm learning. And that's why I talk about it. Bring your testimony to the table, one of Radical Metal's tenets. With that, I think I'll leave it there. Focus on your sphere of influence. If it's small or if it's large, focus there. Let it focus there and watch it. If you want it to grow, watch it grow. But let's stop yelling at each other. Let's stop yelling at people who aren't listening too. I'll leave you with that. I hope you have a great day. Talk to you soon. Bye.